Hey guys, what's up? My name is Dom. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new to my channel, I typically make bookish content, movie content, and anything else in between because I like to do whatever I want on this channel, and tonight's going to be bookish content. Today we are going to do my September wrap-up and my October TBR. I only read 3 books in the month of September, but I have a lot planned for October because I am participating in Gothtober. Gothtober is a readathon, which I will get more into once we get to the TBR section, so let's just talk about my wrap-up. The first book I read in September is Terrible Typhoid Mary by Susan Campbell Bartoletti, I believe. This is my audiobook of the month. If you've noticed, I've listened to at least one audiobook every month. And this is the true story of Terrible Typhoid Mary. If you don't know who she is, she was like this huge case back in the early 1900s when it came to typhoid, when typhoid was at its peak essentially. And she is known for being the first asymptomatic carrier of a disease in America. It was just the reason she was a big deal was just because she wasn't like a huge believer in the science. She's like, I feel no symptoms, why would I be sick? So she wouldn't protect herself because she was a cook. And that's how people were getting sick from her. She would cook their food, they would ingest her germs that she, at first didn't know she had, second refused to believe she had, and therefore they would get typhoid. And this book just essentially explains it in a way a middle schooler can understand, because that's what it is. It's basically, it's like kind of middle school, kind of YA, it's around there. But I found it very interesting, because I always knew who Typhoid Mary was, and I knew the story, I just didn't know more than that. I just didn't know more than she was essentially a character. But in this book, you get to learn about her, the early days of her life, which are kind of a mystery because she did keep to herself. You get to know who some of her friends were because it was one of her friends who actually betrayed her to the police. And you get to find out what happened to her during like these scientific experiments because at first like they told her for the greater good you need to come with us, but she didn't want to. So this part I didn't know. Like I always knew she was an asymptomatic character, but I didn't know she was forced against her will to be hospitalized and used as research. So you get to learn all about that in this book, and I'm sure there's pictures. Again, I don't know, it was an audiobook, and I got the audiobook from the library, and the audiobook didn't say there were pictures, but usually in these type of things there are. But it was an enjoyable read. I think I gave it either 3 or 4 out of 5 stars. The next book I read was my reread of the month. If you've been following this channel for a while, I feel like I say this a lot, but if you've been following this channel for a while, you've noticed every month I reread a book I had to read for school. January was 1st grade, February 2nd, etc. September was 9th grade, or my first year of high school, freshman year, and I decided to reread The Absolute True Diary of a Part-Time Indian by Sherman Alexie. So I misspoke in my last video, in my August wrap-up September TBR. I said this is an autobiography. It is not. Our main character, Junior, is a fictional character. He is just highly inspired by Sherman Alexie's own life. So this is a story about Junior, who is a Native American. He's part of the Spokane tribe. He grew up on the Spokane reservation. He's a cartoonist. He's only in high school, but he's like an amateur cartoonist. He loves drawing cartoons. He loves reading comics. One day he decides to leave the reservation and go to a white school. And by leaving the reservation, I just mean that he just goes to high school, but he still like lives with his parents on the reservation. And it's kind of like the story of identity, essentially, because when he's at this white high school with all these other white people, and he says he's the only Native American there, he feels out of place. But because he went to this high school, now everyone in his tribe thinks he betrayed the tribe, so when he goes back to the tribe, he doesn't feel Native American enough. And I remember freshman year reading this, so we're going back 10 years ago. I was a freshman in high school 10 years ago. That's a little scary to me. Like, I remember thinking this book was funny, and I do still think that. There were moments that were funny, but then there were moments where, like, it was clearly sarcasm, and it was funny, but not the LOL sense, because he was kind of smacking some truth into you with the words he was using. Sherman Alexie used humor as a way to critique the racism that was thrown at him when he was younger, that's thrown at our character Junior, which I thought was interesting. I don't think when I was younger, I don't think I really caught on to that. I mean, when I was younger, I did recognize the aspects of the book where he was describing the racism that was happening to him, but it was like the obvious racism compared to now, reading it older, where like I could see the microaggressions that were given towards him, or that were thrown at him. And it's just a different perspective reading things when you're older. That's why I always say, like, take your childhood faves, reread them when you're older. Like, more than half the time you'll probably still like the book. Like, Hunger Games, still love that. This book, I still vastly enjoyed this book. But it's like, Hunger Games, I said in my vlog, like, those books hit different reading now in a, like, creepy, creepy is not the word I'm looking for, but, like, they hit different in a unsettling way now, and just like this book hits different in a way where it's like I could see more what Sherman Alexie wanted to teach us than I did when I was younger. So I guess like in summary of my thoughts of this, like when I was younger this was just a humorous book, but when I'm older, now reading this when I'm older, not only is it humorous, but I see the social commentary, I see not just the obvious racism but the microaggression. I have a better sense of the tale of identity that Sherman Alexie was trying to tell. All in all, a great coming of age story, 4 out of 5 out of 5 stars. The last book I read in September, you guys, I finally finished the Tokyo Ghoul manga. I read Tokyo Ghoul Re Volume 16. If you don't know what this series is about, which like, wow, this is probably the last time I'm ever gonna have to say this, unless I read the light novels, but we'll see. But if you don't know what the series is about, this takes place in a world where Tokyo is run amok by ghouls. Ghouls eat humans, the only thing is they disguise themselves as humans. The population of Tokyo is horrified by them. Then one day our main character, Ken Kaneki, goes on a date, stuff happens, he has an organ transplant, now he is half human, half ghoul. And it's hard for him because he can understand the side of the humans, but he could also understand the side of the ghouls. So essentially his goal is to make these two species coexist. And this series is full of a lot of inner turmoil, a lot of morally gray aspects to it. In the beginning you think you pick a side, but as the series went on, I didn't know what side I was on. I wanted everyone, both the ghouls that we fell in love with, Kaneki of course, and then the humans that we fell in love with, I wanted them to survive. And it was just a wild ride. I was really scared for how the ending was going to hit me for Tokyo Ghoul Volume 16, or Tokyo Ghoul Re Volume 16, but it worked. I ended up giving it 4 out of 5 stars. The artwork was absolutely stunning. I kept sending, so when I read this, I send my thoughts to Olivia Savannah over at Olivia's Catastrophe, and I was constantly sending her photos of panels because I'm like, this artwork is insane, and I mean that in the best way possible. It was so good. The last chapter, such a feel-good, it was like, I don't want to use the word cheesy, but it was kind of cheesy, but like I still loved it. I love seeing what happened to everyone. The only disappointing thing was I was kind of sort of disappointed with like the last two to three panels, only because I wanted that section to be longer. I thought it was a little like I don't know how to describe this because I liked it. But I feel like I'm going to describe it in a way where you guys would think I hated it, which I didn't. But I just wish, instead of like the 4 panels we got, I do wish that section specifically was just a little more, just to punch my gut even more than it already did. And I have so many fangirly thoughts about this series, and I just don't know how to condense them in this video, because this is, first of all, it's the 16th part of a sequel series, because Tokyo Ghoul Re is technically like the sequel to Tokyo Ghoul. Meaning, I need to do some math here, meaning if you put the two series together, it's the 30th volume of a series. So it's like, how am I supposed to talk about this without spoiling the other 29 volumes? But I guess, like, in conclusion, I got everything I wanted. The mental anguish I was striving for, absolutely loved it. So good. And it wasn't just with Kaneki. Like, all these characters had mental anguish that I was living for. My ship is canon, and actually, not only do I have one ship that's canon, but I have two of my ships are canon, which I was not expecting. For one of my ships I was expecting, because I did kind of sort of get spoilers. Also, you know how like canon ships can be obvious from the beginning. So like I kind of figured my one ship was gonna be canon, but my other one I just shipped it because it was fun. I don't even know if they have chemistry. Like, maybe, for all I know, maybe I'm just a slut for the height difference, but I was not expecting them to be canon, and now they are, and I'm more than happy about that. I feel like I'm being spoiled, because I have so many friends who are like, I have these ships that aren't canon, my comfort ships are never canon. Both of my comfort ships of this series are canon, and I live for it, and I want to thank Suyoshida for it. I do have to say, too, just because there's, you know, Tokyo Ghoul and then Tokyo Ghoul Re, 2 separate series, I did enjoy the initial series first. I enjoyed Tokyo Ghoul more than I enjoyed Re. Like, as a whole, I think Tokyo Ghoul I would give, like, 4... Like, my average star rating would be 4 out of 5 stars when I combine all those manga together. Tokyo Ghoul Re, I think my average rating, because I was writing it out last night, I think my average rating of the series as a whole is only like 3 out of 5. Both series together, I still love the whole series. I don't really have a rating for it just because that's so much. And I don't know what to do anymore. Like, now I have to put, you know, Kaneki, Toka, Hanami, Akira, Amon, Ayato. I have to put these people on the shelf now, and I'm really upset about that. And Hide, I can't forget about Hide. Like, I've been with these characters since I've been with these characters since March of 2020, when COVID began, when COVID started kicking our asses. I had just gotten laid off from Disney World. I had just gotten home to Chicago. I was upset because 1, I had to leave Disney World, 2, I was unemployed, 3, everything was locked down because it's like Chicago went on like a huge lockdown compared to some other parts of the country. There was nothing to do. But then I heard the theme song to Tokyo Ghoul, to the anime, and I was like, this fucking slaps. And it's because of the theme song that I chose to read the series. Like, I went into it knowing really nothing of what it was about other than, like, ghouls are a thing. But, like, what are ghouls, you know? So, we can thank the theme song for getting me into the series. Why I decided to read the manga before watching the anime, I don't know. But maybe the journey will continue, because I do have 2 of the 3 light novels that I could be reading soon. And then I could react to the anime on the channel. Who knows? I'll have to find the time for that, because filming nowadays is hard. But maybe the journey is not over. I was also considering making like a separate video titled like, I read my first ever manga, because that's what this was. Tokyo Ghoul is my first ever manga. I really just don't know what I would talk about though. Like, I would absolutely talk about my reading experience, reading a manga itself for the first time, but I also don't know if I would use the video as like a review for Tokyo Ghoul and whatnot. But let me know down below if you're interested in that. Help a girl out. I don't know. But other than that, that's really all I want to say before I fangirl to the point I like spoil stuff. I don't really want to spoil things. But all in all, this was a wild ride. This journey was a 1.5 years. And I want to thank Olivia Savannah from Olivia's Catastrophe, her link is down below, for joining me on this journey, and I cannot wait until I start the anime and then she starts reading the manga, because I know her anime journey ended a while ago, but part 2 of our journeys is starting soon. Now I want to get into my October TBR. I am participating in a readathon called Gothtober, which is hosted by 3 people. We have Hannah from Ladette M, Tish from Little Wolf, and then Olivia Savannah from Olivia's Catastrophe, who I have already mentioned. All their links will be down below, and this is just a spooky, if you want it to be spooky, readathon for October. I mean, they have prompts, you can read whatever books you want, they don't have to be spooky, I'm just choosing to go the spooky route. They each have teams. I am joining Team Angel. There's Team Angel, there's Team Demon, there's Team Death. Each team has their own prompts. I am on Team Angel. So there are 10 prompts. I have my paper here so I don't like get lost. But the first prompt is to read a book with a monochrome cover. I was always to the understanding that monochrome means just like one single color, but apparently it actually means black and white. I don't really know. I was told in my art class, I remember I had an assignment in my art class sophomore year of high school, and I was told to make a painting that was monochrome. I chose the color blue, and I got an A+, which is a sign I did not misunderstand the assignment, so who knows. But I was looking, my foot fell asleep, oh my god. I was looking through my shelves. I don't really have a lot of monochrome colors. I don't have any monochrome covers, so I went with the monochrome est. And plus I really just want to read this book anyway. But that's Uzumaki by Junji Ito. Junji Ito is known as a horror mangaka in Japan. He's the only one I really know, because whenever people talk about horror manga, he's the author they bring up. This specific story is about one day in a town, spirals start appearing, and everyone tells me, who knew spirals could be so scary? I am excited to start reading this because I know the anime comes out next year, October of 2022, and then, like, that trailer kind of freaked me out, so that's why I really want to read this. I've seen some panels before, just like in passing, like on my Explore page on Instagram, people will post panels. I've seen people with Junji Ito artwork tattoos. His artwork could be kind of scary, so I'm excited to read this. I know some people said, like, in the beginning, you're not going to be spooked, but as the book goes on, it's just incredibly unsettling. Prompt number 2 is Large Friendship Group. That means we are going to continue reading Under the Dome by Stephen King. I did forget to mention that I was reading this throughout September, just not a lot. So the last time I spoke to you guys, I was on like page 400. I'm only on page 500. I was only able to read 100 pages in the month of September. But the goal is to read this book on my bus rides in the morning to work. Possibly at night, but at night I just get so tired I just plug in my headphones because I can't concentrate on anything else. But the reason this kind of sort of fits the prompt is that there are tons of different friendship groups. Some of them are just more terrible than others, but there's still a big friendship group. There's a lot of little posses throughout the novel. And I also just want to be able to get this book done because at my local library, you have a total of 15 renewals. And if, like, the system knows that if the book's not back in the system, they just automatically renew it for you, so you're not constantly going back and forth to the library. Usually, I only need one renewal for a book, but it's taking me so long to read this that I'm currently on my 5th renewal. So embarrassing. I just want to get this done. Prompt number 3 is consequences. And again, you can, like, interpret this however you want. So I decided to reread The Crucible by Arthur Miller. I'm knocking out 2 birds with 1 stone with this book. So not only am I listening to this on audio, making this my audio book for the month of October, this is also a book I had to read for 10th grade. So this is like a school reread. And I remember loving this book. And it helped that it wasn't, so you know, usually in high school you have to read the assigned readings at home. For this book, because it was a play, we didn't do that. The assigned reading was in class. People were assigned characters. I mean, it changed each act. But for Act 1, I was Abigail, and I had a ton of fun with it. I loved it. If you don't know what this book is about, it's about the Salem witch trials, essentially. A bunch of girls were caught dancing in the forest, and now they're just blaming everyone but themselves, getting people in trouble because if you know the Salem witch trials, everyone believed everything they heard. So people just went on trial all the time. It's also a movie with Winona Ryder. And this is her month. The month of October is Winona Ryder's time to shine. Oh, and the reason I chose this for consequences is because here's Abigail Williams, you know, dancing in the forest, knowing damn well Salem doesn't like that, and now everyone's on her ass about it, so she's facing the consequences and trying to avoid all of that by blaming all those around her. Prompt number 4 is biblical references. I chose Carrie by Stephen King. This has been on my shelf for like almost 2 years now. I want to get it read. I really don't know how strongly the biblical references are. It's just, I haven't seen the movie with Sissy Spacek, but I have seen the remake with Chloe Grace Moretz, and I remember the mom just being like uber religious, so that's what I'm thinking of when it comes to biblical references. Prompt number 5 is Sentient House. I'm gonna go with the classic, The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. Again, this has been on my shelf for over a year now. I meant to read it last year, never got to it. Chose this one because it's about a group of friends, so this could fit for the large friendship group, but it's about a group of friends who find out a house is haunted, so they go to investigate. Number 6, Enlightenment. That's it. You can take this as any way you want. So I chose Needful Things by Stephen King. This is the 3rd Stephen King book on this TBR. I was gifted this. I was told it was really good. From what I gathered on Goodreads, it's about a man who opens up a shop. If you go in there, it kind of gives you whatever you want. And then the story is people finding out how maybe what they want isn't what they need, but they find out the hard way. So in a way, this could be under consequences, but I'm kind of like reaching to make this enlightenment just because like you're learning, you don't need something. I don't know if it works, but we're going to make it work. So prompts 7 through 10 are all the same on all the teams, and they're the same prompts they always have every year. So prompt number 7 is BIPOC representation, or Black, Indigenous, People of Color representation. So I chose Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones, right? Yeah, Stephen Graham Jones. I'm going to read the back of this novel. So A Tale of Revenge, Cultural Identity, and the Cost of Breaking from Tradition in this latest novel from the Jordan Peele of horror literature, Stephen Graham Jones. Seamlessly blending classic horror and a dramatic narrative with sharp social commentary, The Only Good Indians follows 4 American Indian men after a disturbing event from their youth puts them in a desperate struggle for their lives. Tracked by an entity bent on revenge, these childhood friends are helpless as the culture and traditions they left behind catch up to them in a violent, vengeful way. I'm excited to get to this. I heard it was really good. I remember people on BookTube and Book Twitter raving about it last year. Number 8 is disability rep. My thing is, when it comes to disability rep, I often find it while I'm reading. So I'm hoping that's the case for Modern Masters of Horror, which I was also gifted. I was gifted this by the same person who gave me Needful Things. Stephen King is part of this, George A. Romero, John Coyne. I've noticed with horror, sometimes main characters do have disabilities. Like, what did I just watch? I just watched Annabelle Creation, and she had a disability. She couldn't walk. Like, she could walk, but she had to use a cane because she had polio. Prompt number 9 is LGBTQ+ rep. It's Cemetery Boys by Aiden Thomas. The main character is trans, so there is the rep, but the book is about Yadriel has summoned a ghost, and now he can't get rid of him. When his traditional Latinx family has problems accepting his gender, Yadriel becomes determined to prove himself a real brujo. With the help of his cousin and his best friend Maritza, he performs the ritual himself, and then he sets out to find the ghost, but then the ghost ends up being this guy who was like the neighborhood bad boy. And the longer they spend time together, the more Yadriel's like, I don't want to separate from you. So I wanted to reread this last year because this came out, or not reread it, I wanted to read it for the first time last year because that's when it came out. Everyone raved about it. I meant to buy it at Barnes & Noble, and then I did not have a paycheck, so I did not buy it, but now I do have a paycheck, so I can buy it. And the last prompt is film or TV that deals with whatever your team is. So for example, Team Angel, find a TV show or a film with angels. So I looked this up because I wanted it to be a new to me film. There's one called Gabriel, which is about the Archangel Gabriel. That's all I know about it. If you are struggling with this prompt, there's also Angels in the Outfield, which is a baseball movie. And there's Field of Dreams, but I don't know if they're more so ghosts than angels. But it's also a baseball movie. It's really good though. And the Sox and the Yankees just had a game in that famous field. So I would actually recommend y'all watching that. And that is it for this video. I have quite the hefty TBR. Again, who knows if I'm going to get to it. But let me know down below what you guys will be reading and what you have read last month. And if you like this video, give it a big thumbs up, comment, subscribe. Y'all know the drill. Without further ado, I'm going to peace out and I'll see you guys later. Ciao tutti.